Hey, Teddy K here for the Best Buy blog, and in this video review we take a look at the DJI OM4. This is DJI's latest smartphone gimbal that is made not just for existing users, but also for newcomers too. DJI is known for making drones, but they make gimbals too, and they've been doing it for a while and doing it well. For those of you who know about the Osmo Mobile series, that is basically where this lies. Now, they've changed the naming convention a little bit, so it's not Osmo Mobile 4, it's OM4. So I guess they're turning it into an acronym. But either way, that's what it's called. And the device here is interesting for a couple of reasons. Now, one is because I think DJI kind of went after sort of like a newcomer, like a new user, someone who's not very familiar with gimbals or with DJI's products. And part of the reason for that is because I think there's a lot of similarities to the Osmo Mobile 3, and also because it's just so simple. There is a lot of simplistic stuff here that I think actually benefits anybody who's just getting into this. Now, I'm going to preface what I'm going to say here with the fact that I have not used the Osmo Mobile 3, so I don't have that kind of basis for comparison. Actually, the first Osmo I've used was probably the first one, so it's been quite a gap since then, and there's a huge difference from the first one. Now, as far as the differences between this and the 3, the main differences are you have a better motor in the 4 and you have a magnetic clamp. So the magnetic clamp is significant, but actually both of them are significant because they actually work well together. So the motor being better, meaning that not only do you have smoother panning, smoother everything, the magnetic clamp also makes it possible to use the phone when you just want it hands. You don't want it in your hands, you want to take it off, as opposed to like unclamping it or whatever. In fact, DJI made it possible to even forego the clamp completely and just put an adhesive on the back of the phone with the magnet there, and then that way you can just put it onto the mount and that's it. So no clamp at all. I preferred not to use the pad, to be honest, because certain phones I was using weren't really conducive to the adhesive. Like in this case, I have a Pixel 4a here with a cloth, a fabric type case, which doesn't really work. In fact, actually, one thing that's worth noting is that if you are to use that adhesive, it's best that your phone not have a glass back. It just doesn't stick as well to it, so that is a problem, in case you're worried about that. But it will work with cases. The problem is that depending on what case you're using, it may not fit very well. So what I mean by that is that if you're using the clamp and you want to use a case, it depends what kind of case it is. That's why DJI put in that pad with the magnet to offset that. So if you want to use a case, especially if it's a thicker case and you're worried about protection, put it on the back of the case and you can put it on the magnet. Okay, now as to how it works. So it's pretty simple. Of course, like any other gimbal, you got the handheld sort of grip here, okay, you've got the trigger button, and then you have some buttons here in the front to control different things. Now, the DJI Mimo app is your gateway into all the different features that are available. So when you shoot video or photos or whatever, or time lapses, and there's a couple other things we're gonna get into, you do it through the app. The app is pretty straightforward and offers some built-in tutorials that will help you get acclimated to what's available, which is good. But for the most part, a lot of this is kind of trial and error and discovery, and I think there's a good thing that goes with that, because ultimately just kind of unleashes some of the creativity that you might be able to get out of this. I will mention one quick thing about the tripod. The tripod does come included, so unlike the Osmo Mobile 3 and the previous models where you had a kind of a choice of getting just the gimbal or to get like a kind of like a bundle with like a case and like whatever, this only comes with the bundle. So you will get the tripod out of the box with it, including a cloth case. Unfortunately, it's not one of those hard cases, but it is the tripod really is, as you see it here, it's to give the gimbal a lower center of gravity and just to stabilize it, that's it. However, you do have the screw mount at the bottom. You can use this with any tripod you like, and it should work really, really well. So you can kind of mount it wherever you want and just let it sort of follow a subject or whatever, and it should work relatively well. I found it worked okay in those conditions, and again, I think part of that is because of the motor, which works quite well and is more efficient, so it's not going to heat up as much, especially if it's carrying a bit of a heavier phone. Like for example, I have the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra here, which is heavier than most phones, and it didn't have a problem holding those, and I didn't notice any major heating issues that were acknowledged in the previous model. Now, as to how well it works and how well it shoots, I mean, that's relative. Like it shoots really well, and part of this is also based on just how well the app works. that's not to say you can't use the regular photo app that the phone offers. It's just that you won't necessarily get the same kind of tracking. So, and of course some of the features that are in here are new, like Dynazoom. So Dynazoom is basically a dolly zoom, which is an Alfred Hitchcock directing technique where you would zoom in on a subject, but at the same time, it feels like the background is zooming out. It's an interesting kind of parallax effect. Filmmakers know it very well. It works okay here, but it really depends what you're shooting, what kind of light you're using, and the results are not always great, to be very honest. So it just depends kind of how you're using it. Story mode is not entirely new, but it is there, and it gives you the ability to basically have this splice together some clips that you've been shooting and put like subtitles on there and music and so on. So it's cool. Most of them are kind of canned, like they're made for you, but you do have the option to customize your own too. So I think for the Instagram crowd, they might appreciate something like that, because you can do like short clips and sort of dress them up, if you will. It's an okay feature. I found it a little bit gimmicky, but it's all right, it's there. Panoramas are pretty simple. Time lapses are simple too. You just set it up, you kind of decide how you want to do them. Well, the pano is very quick, just kind of pans around, but the time lapses, you can determine how much of an interval you want, how quick, how low, things like that. And again, you just set it up sort of on a tripod, and it just does its thing. So you can even have it so that it does panos where it has you sort of standing in the frame at different intervals as it does the pano. So it's kind of like, you're moving along with the pano. I tried it once, and I don't think I got it right. So, I can't really show you an example because it was terrible. But either way, the feature should work. And I think, again, trial and error, right? Trial and error. So I didn't have a chance really to try that anywhere else, because you really need the right environment, I think, if you're going to try that. Moreover, I think, as far as video and photo quality, again, you can shoot in 4K, 1080p, 720p, 30 to 60 frames per second. The quality's fine on the Mimo app as far as like when the conditions are good. So nighttime photography is awful on this app, it's just terrible. Video is not great either. So in those particular cases, if you have a really good camera on your phone, you're going to ultimately use those features. And that's, I think, again, why the magnet's so important, because you can just take the phone off and just take a shot if you need to. So it's, in that sense, you are limited to some degree in what you can and can't do within the app, but at least you're not completely handcuffed, because you do have other options. So if there's a camera app that you want to use that can work with the gimbal in some way, then by all means use it. I'll say one quick thing about tracking and battery life. They're not intricately related, but the follow me feature, like just sort of tracking a subject, is generally very good. When the subject is going really, really fast, that's where you might lose it a little bit. The motor's good, but it's not going to be as good as maybe like a really high-end professional gimbal for like DSLRs or something like that might be. But it's pretty good, and if it's following it, a child, a person, a dog, something like that, it should be totally fine. And the battery life, again, I'm bringing that up because really there's no change. So DJI didn't change anything with the battery. It's actually the same 15-hour runtime that they claimed for the Osmo Mobile 3. So it's essentially the same. And again, having not used the Mobile 3, I can't really say that it is any different, but the battery definitely lasts. I mean, I charged this yesterday, and I've been shooting with it quite a bit, and I still have 3 lights here on the LEDs turned on. So clearly it's going to last for a while. And even when I used it before, the battery lasted quite a bit. So I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. You can, of course, plug in your phone if you need to keep that charged. So it'll kind of siphon off the OM4's battery and then recharge the phone as well. So I'm going to make one quick note before I go here, is that if you have ever been intimidated by gimbals, you're not sure how to use it, don't be with this. It's actually quite simple to get the hang of. DJI did a great job in really kind of streamlining and simplifying things so that you almost discover what it can do on your own, if that makes any sense. I mean, the instruction manual that comes out of the box is basically like 2 pages. It's like in 100 languages. So there's not much there to get you started. It just kind of gets you started quickly, and then you're on your own. But the app actually picks up the slack and tells you a lot of things that you need to know. But most of this is really just kind of carrying it around and just shooting with it. That's it. So whether, you know, you love video or you love photography, you're an influencer, whatever it is, you know, whatever creative pursuit that you're looking to do, if you think that this can fit with that, you probably won't be disappointed, especially given that it works with just about any phone, regardless, Android, iOS, sizes don't matter, and that's it. And that's my review of the new DJI OM4 for the Best Buy blog. I'm Teddy K. Thanks for watching.